middle of the, oh God. Protesters are starting to throw rocks. We're going to get away from the scene right now, Judy.
Okay, Michelle, you take care of yourself. I'm going to let her get off the phone. We really appreciate it. Get to a safe place.
CrossroadsIRL.com.
Okay. We have our Tylenol Americans, okay? If you know what that means. We have Americans who think that now, to be honest, let's not play games. This tactic has been used in pre-Soviet Russia. You release the mentally unwell and the criminals into the general population, cause problems until the people say, we will give you anything, just make it stop. And then they say, well, you have to give us the power and the authority to do what needs to be done. And they say, yes, we will vote in the Bolsheviks. And then the Bolsheviks are given power. They say, thank you very much. And then they take that power and use it against the people. And that's the tactic that I'm seeing here. Same for the Nazi party and for the fascist part. They amplify what they want people to see as the ills of the society, the ills of the current leadership. Here's what's going wrong. They are the problem. You know, if you give us power, you guys will have heaven on earth. And then the people say, yes, we will give you power. Just make it stop. Meanwhile, most of the problems were caused by the people telling you that they're going to solve the problem. Problem created. They offer the solution and then they take over everything. So here's Antifa. So Antifa is in Chicago, is doing this. So let's just watch this video and then we'll just give some commentary. Meanwhile, let me know your thoughts in the chat of the stories so far, your thoughts on this story, and then we'll just have a conversation once this clip is done.
And when you first got on scene and you were able to talk to some neighbors and some witnesses there on the scene, and describe to us what initially...
Judy, wait 1 second. Okay. I see Chicago police are arriving and putting themselves in the middle of the situation right now. It appears there might be someone in command, from what I can see, approaching the area. I'm not sure if this is an attempt to start dispersing the crowd. But we have just in the last few seconds seen Chicago police, who had remained at bay, now starting to put themselves in the middle of the, oh God. Protesters are starting to throw rocks. We're going to get away from the scene right now, Judy.
Okay, Michelle, you take care of yourself. I'm going to let her get off the phone. We really appreciate it. Get to a safe place. So what you're watching, what you continue to watch, is exactly what Michelle has been describing. This again.
So it's a misnomer to call them protesters. Once they start throwing rocks, they are no longer protesters, they are rioters. The mainstream media runs cover for these kinds of behavior by calling what they're doing protesting when they are clearly rioting. Once you start throwing rocks and projectiles at law enforcement or at anyone who isn't on your side, you have switched from protesting to rioting. At
the intersection 105th and Avenue N, last Michelle said, as protesters started throwing rocks, and you can see that there is some chemical being deployed right there at this intersection. Just prior to this, you did see what appeared to be Chicago police officers and some commanders there trying to have some type of a dialogue with the protesters there at the intersection. It would seem that they were trying to disperse the crowd and maybe usher them off the street so that the agents could possibly move their vehicles. And it was at that point that Michelle noticed that protesters started throwing rocks, and this is the end result. Earlier, we had heard that there were pepper balls being sprayed into the crowd because someone had thrown eggs, or some neighbors had thrown something at the agents. And now reports of rocks being thrown. And that was coming from Michelle, a reporter right there on the ground. She has now gotten off the phone with us. They're trying to get to a safer place, of course, but we can continue to watch this picture. Fortunately, with Chopper 7 up in the air, we can still continue to monitor what is happening here. Again, if you are just joining us here on stream, this situation has been very tense for the last, maybe about... So
this is ABC News. Okay, and I was waiting for them to call this a mostly peaceful protest. Yeah, because they tend to do that. They tend to say that things like this are mostly peaceful. So you have Antifa, you have the riots in Portland, you have the riots now extending to Chicago. And what do those two locations have in common. You have Democrat leadership that outright call the ICE enforcement, federal law enforcement, Nazis, the Gestapo, and they continue to fuel the negative sentiment they have against federal agents. Hold on, James. Hold on. James, I'm working. Yes, James. Sorry. Okay, so go down and play with Zoe, and then I'll be downstairs soon. Okay. All right. Please close the door. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So. I used to stream at noon, but because most of my audience are unable to join at that time, I had to move it to the evening. Now in the evenings, I have the kids, and the kids tend to walk in and do this. So sorry about that. So where was I? So we have these incidents happening in Chicago and Portland and in California. What do these three locations have in common? The leadership of those cities rile up the citizens of those cities, and they begin to attack federal law enforcement. Democrats are quick to call out January 6th, very quick to do so. And they say that, that federal law enforcement was attacked. One person died, which isn't true. They weren't killed at the incident. And people are saying that those two incidents aren't related. The person who died after the incident at the Capitol building wasn't related to why that officer passed, but they would call it anyway and say that it is related. And they've tried very hard to make January 6th the worst thing that has happened in the history of the United States of America, including September 11th. We've had at least 3 January 6th situations across America. And the mainstream media has made it look like it's a walk in the park. It's just, that's a regular Tuesday. We've seen Barack Obama call crime in Chicago, just ordinary street crime. Meanwhile, these are crimes where American lives are lost. And he belittles it to make it look like it's not important. You don't need the National Guard to go in to enforce law and order, where local PD clearly isn't doing the job. You have California, where the governor essentially wants to be Trump. He can't be Trump. He wants to be Trump, but he essentially has empowered his leadership to attack Trump and federal law enforcement at every turn. They all have one thing in common. Their citizens attack federal agents, and crime in those cities are through the roof. So it's unfortunate that that's where we are with law enforcement and with the goings on in these cities or at these cities. But once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it.
Subscribe.
Thanks for watching, liking, and sharing this video. Please subscribe, leave a super thank, and join my membership to keep me doing this. A huge thank you to my supporters listed on the screen. Thank you for your donations and membership.
Thanks for watching.